Welcome to March Malcontent, the yearly preseason before the April Anger Amiibo Tournament season, featuring a whole bunch of Amiibo fights you know and love, and also this adorable Cloud guy. So for our first match, we're going to have Corrin against Richter. Looks like they're going to be on Smashville. Classic stage. Actually, this is Town and City. I just realized by the platform layout. It can be a little bit difficult to tell if you couldn't realize by me immediately getting it wrong and having to correct myself. The two games are actually remarkably similar, I suppose. I guess I'd put them as the most alike Animal Crossing games. I don't have a whole bunch of experience with all of them, but the main addition in Town and City is the titular Town and City, which is effectively just an extra area you get to go to. You can actually see we're scrolling over to it in the background right now. Corrin with a down air that's pretty risky against Richter because his up air and up smash both go in a very long, straight line, so it's very easy for him to hit her out of it. Manages to tether back to the stage, though. Holds his ground and waits for a patient forward tilt, and Corrin goes for a counter, but Richter hit it the wrong way. It's always something interesting about counters, is that it always feels like your opponent fails to hit you the one time when you're actually expecting them to. There are, of course, ways around it, and Corrin's going to be able to survive that. Gets Richter off stage. He doesn't use his air dodge. He's actually able to hit the ledge. I wouldn't have thought he would have been able to make that. Richter going aggressively off stage, pretty risky for Belmont, and he manages to just barely grab the ledge again. Whenever a character is trying to grab the ledge, there is a little bit of a zone, and Richter's not going to be able to make it back to that. There's a zone in which the character can make it back to the ledge, as in they get close enough and then they automatically grab it. And to make the animations line up, your character sort of just snaps to the place where they should be. In general, it's a pretty small area around the ledge, feasibly where your character could just put out their arm and grab it. But some characters have a bigger distance to grab the ledge than others, excluding, Richter's tether, which you just saw. So characters with a larger grabbing the ledge range, which is coincidentally usually characters with a worse recovery, it's kind of a way to buff their recovery without strictly buffing the distance they can travel. It only gives them a more lenient area in which they can grab the ledge if they're close enough to it. But anyways, on the larger hitbox areas, the characters can sometimes visibly teleport to the ledge, and that's usually called magnet hands. Not any particular reason except that it feels like the character's hands are attracted to the ledge. So if you ever hear that terminology ever again, that's why. Richter going very aggressively, I want to say off stage, but he was predominantly above the stage, hardly off of it, and he almost got massively inconvenienced there. He was able to pull it through, but when you're below the stage and you're getting hit by an attack, it can always be a gamble. If you crash into the bottom of the stage, you have to tech, and if you get hit away from the stage, then trying to tech will use your air dodge, which loses you just enough distance that on a lot of characters you end up dying for it. Up special on Richter, that's not going to kill. It doesn't kill until about 140% on most average stages. I do believe Town and City has a slightly higher upper blast zone than a lot of other tournamentally viable stages. Up air to smack Corrin out of his way, and then he was still able to get to the ledge with his recovery. That's actually pretty hard to do, because if you're too close to the ledge, your up air will actually just grab the ledge. As a general rule, if you have a tether attack that can't grab the ledge or hit the opponent, it will prioritize the ledge, because if it doesn't do that, you die. Corrin catching the tech, not Corrin, that was Richter catching the tech of Corrin with his dash attack. One of the advantages of moves that stay out a long time is that they naturally beat things like air dodges. Usually when you're not expecting them to. Corrin attacks on the platform, then she throws out a smash attack that spends too much of her time. She actually gets dragged off stage. She is able to make it back without getting killed, but that can be a dangerous situation, especially if Richter were to know that his ledge trapping is phenomenal. He could give Corrin a very difficult time to get back on stage. Richter does seem to be doing just fine this match, though. Goes for a forward air instead of an up air. Corrin gets Richter off stage. He's able to tether. It's always risky for Richter to be off stage because it's so hard for him to grab the ledge. That move almost killed Corrin, and that move wasn't particularly close. You can see a little display in the upper corner whenever someone gets sent off screen. That's actually new for Smash Ultimate. For this tournament, we have it set to its largest setting. There's a couple smaller settings if by chance you feel like it gets in the way. And for our second match, we have Dark Pit against Peach.
3, 2, 1, go!
So for anyone not keeping track, which I understand can be difficult, that's why I like to do these recaps to catch everyone up. Whoever wins this match makes it into the tournament. Whoever doesn't is going to be in the pool with the last 12 available fighters. And we're going to do one more round of matches. There's only going to be 6 of them, because 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 of the last competitors will be eliminated. That footstool is going... Nope, Peach is barely able to grab the ledge. We're going to have 6 competitors eliminated, 6 competitors who will still be in the competition, but since there are 5 remaining slots, we're just going to do a free-for-all to decide who the last unlucky soul who doesn't get to make it is. I considered having another level of tournaments, but then we would have 6 fighters eliminated down to 3 fighters, and that makes the math incredibly weird. We could do some sort of round robin or Swiss-style tournament brackets, but since this is Amiibo, it's just easier to put all 6 of them in a fight, and then the first one to lose all 3 lives is the one who doesn't get to make it. Sorry if you wanted an extra 5 matches of putting the last 3 Amiibo against each other, and someone would have to intrinsically get yet another bye, so that 2 out of 3 characters would have to win 2 matches, but the 3rd character would only have to win 1 match. And there's no real fair way to decide that. We've been doing everything through RNG this whole time, so it's just easier and faster for everyone. Dark Pit uses a reflector to potentially reflect the turnip Peach threw, but she threw it too low, and that left Dark Pit in his reflector, so Peach was able to just kill him. It's a strategy I can recommend against characters who are very over-eager to use their reflector against your projectiles. You just miss them with a projectile. It works out great. For example, you jump over them and shoot an arrow above their head. Instinctively, they will try to reflect it. And obviously, it will miss them. And then they feel either lame or stupid, because they weren't any real danger to begin with. If you were trying to get closer to them, then usually the reflector's ending lag is just enough that you can close the distance. And if you were trying to get farther away from them, it gives you ample time to run away. It works especially well against characters who otherwise extra benefit from getting hit by a projectile, which there aren't too many of. But notable examples would be Mr. Game & Watch's Bucket, which can absorb projectiles into a very powerful attack later. Ness and Lucas have PK Magnet, or PSI Magnet, depending on if you're Japanese or American. Anyways, it heals them if they're hit by energy projectiles. Incineroar can get an attack boost if he counters a projectile, and Joker can get Arsene earlier if he does so. So those are all examples of characters who want to be using their block and or counter on your projectiles whenever possible. And if you just keep whiffing it, it usually frustrates the opponents because they know that there's intrinsic value and that they did not get it. Another side note while on this topic, against Mr. Game & Watch specifically, he needs to suck up 3 projectiles into his bucket, and the easiest way to get on his nerves is to shoot 2 energy projectiles. And he'll bucket both of them, and then never shoot a 3rd one for the rest of the match. I'm sure they find it infuriating, there's possibly some of them who think that they are using the threat of the bucket to stop you from using projectiles, when the truth is that you want to tease them just enough that they think there's a possibility of them filling up that last portion. Peach using her air dodge instead of floating away, that's a little bit of a tactical blunder. Float is a very powerful attribute. She did die shortly thereafter, so I guess there's not too much more to talk about that. But still, it is those small optimizations that can really change your success in this game. And for our next match, we're going to have Bowser Jr. against Corrin II. As a reminder, the loser of this match will not be making it into the tournament, whereas the winner will have a 5/6 chance of being able to make it in. So it's not guaranteed, but it's pretty good odds. I guess Bowser Jr. decided that the third grab's the charm, finally got one to land, and he did get a lot of damage off of it, and he was able to successfully recover the ledge. Bowser Jr. has always had a tendency of recovering a lot lower than necessary. I can also say that this stage isn't particularly to his advantage, simply because, first of all, there's the big hole in it. Bowser Jr. really likes to use his go-kart to get places where he needs to be, and his recovery goes just a little bit higher than Corrin's, I'd say, but with the bottom blast zone being so close to the ledge, that's not particularly important. So Corrin, who has a smaller recovery, is slightly better off because she can use 100% of it, whereas Bowser Jr. has recovery he doesn't need and can also leave him vulnerable. That time he did get the clown cart back, so he didn't die. But I do also mean in the opportunity cost sense that every character has enough of everything they need. So in theory, a character with a better recovery is worse in slightly other aspects. So as a whole, Bowser Jr. doesn't appreciate a stage where recovery is not as important. Especially because if Bowser Jr. would actually use the go-kart to get the extra jump from it, he actually gets a really great recovery. Corrin is doing a great job of just killing Bowser Jr. That was a terrible stock for Bowser Jr. Terrific stock for Corrin. Kind of a mirror image of the first stock they had. Corrin's loving this forward smash. It does reach pretty far. Back when Corrin was introduced, it was one of the longest forward smashes in the game. If not the longest, the only other competition I know of would have been Mii Gunner and possibly Mega Man. Although with those, I'm not exactly sure the length they travel, and Mega Man's may or may not get a little extra distance based off of the charge time. Bowser Jr. suddenly struggled to get any hits off on Corrin. Drops a bomb on her, but it explodes too early. Blocking the skewer with his forward air. That's not something you normally see. It's really hard for that move to clash, especially because Corrins usually use it near instantaneously on the ground. Very risky recovery for Bowser Jr. there. Looks like he's going to be making it back to the ledge. No, he didn't get the clown car back that time. That is the risk of Bowser Jr.'s recovery. Bowser Jr. will not be in April Anger this year. And here we've got Wario against Mii Brawler. Looks like we're going to be on Town and City again. The stage with intermittent platforms. I will say it is a lot more unique of platform layout than certain other stages. Not that Smash Bros. Ultimate as a whole actually lacks for unique stage ideas. It has a bunch. But I do also understand that they're hitting the limit of there's only so many different stages they can make that are flat surface with 1 to 3 platforms on them. So with all the platform transitions of this stage, it actually works out pretty well in a kind of dynamic way, I guess I'd say. Wario finally getting his countermeasures against Mii Brawler. Let's see if it's too little too late. Because Mii Brawler is looking for a kill move, and Mii Brawler doesn't struggle for kills. Most characters usually don't particularly struggle, but certain characters do need particular setups in order to guarantee the KO. Mii Brawler is not one of them. You can just throw out a forward smash like that. Mii Brawler sent off stage. The Mii Brawler moveset, since you do get to pick from the custom moves, was specifically chosen so that the AI would have more recovery options available, since that is something the Amiibo AI tends to struggle with the most, I'd say. Which is also weird because it's not like there's an exact science to how to recover. And compared to past games, the AI is so much better at recovering. Strong hit of the dash attack is not enough to kill Mii Brawler. Mii Brawler tries to spike Wario out of the motorcycle, but hits the motorcycle instead. You can see the hit stop that applied at the moment when that happened. Mii Brawler really getting preoccupied with Wario's bike, either trying to destroy it or pick it up for themselves. Wario does get the chomp on the bike, which does help charge up his waft, and it does heal just a little bit of percentage. But if your opponent's right there, they're usually going to hit you, and you don't want that. And Wario used the waft when it could not kill Mii Brawler. Normally what you'd see a Wario do in that situation is they would kill the opponent once, and then get a really cool combo and try to kill him with the waft again. Just as an optimal usage of resources. Waft takes about 2 minutes to charge, so you're not particularly losing too much of it if you spend a minute and a half getting the right opportunity. Although I guess if it does take you 90 seconds, you might as well use it first and then wait for the next one to show up. But on a match with an 8-minute timer, that means you get a maximum of 4 wafts per game. Any amount of time you're holding a waft will reduce the amount of time you have on it, which does also coincidentally mean that you should only ever be able to use 3 of them. And that's if you use them all immediately when they charge. Wario with a great read on the kickflip with his up smash. Wasn't particularly punishing, but it did get damage on. That's a very valuable thing to know in Smash Brothers, is that even if you're not killing your opponent, if you are stacking up their damage, you're meaning that whenever you do finally hit them with the kill move, it will be more likely to be a guaranteed kill. If your opponent makes it up to about 200%, you're usually not feeling great because all you're able to do is get nickel and dime them here and there. But you do also need to realize that your opponent is probably doing everything in their power to prevent themselves from perishing. So they are going to try to play incredibly safe in a way that you cannot punish. And sometimes you just have to wait that sort of thing out. Wario sent off stage uses his motorcycle immediately. A little bit reckless, especially because he might need it. He did just get it back. You could see that little glint spark. And he got KO'd anyway, so I guess he didn't particularly need it then. And he uses another waft out of hit stun to try to get Mii Brawler by surprise. If it had worked, I would have congratulated him on it. But it didn't, and now Wario gets one more waft, and that's if he lives that long. Granted, Mii Brawler is at a much higher percentage, so is a lot more likely to die. But Wario does have confirms and or setups into his waft. Forward tilt from center stage is actually enough to take out Mii Brawler. And up next we have Mewtwo against R.O.B. Looks like we're going to be on N64 Peach's Castle. Definitely one of the more unorthodox stages. It is actually one of the stages that just barely fit the qualifications for the preseason stage rule set, which I should mention is going to be different from the actual April Anger rule set, in case anybody didn't know, or remember from last year or anything. The preseason gets more lenient rules for visual variety, and of course change in music and whatnot. And with hazards off, this stage doesn't provide anything that makes a real problem for the amiibo. We still get, I would say, decently fair fights to go on. Certainly this stage would benefit certain types of characters more than others, but it's neutral enough that I allowed it, more than just the standard normal tournament stage rule set we normally have. Which is, of course, fine for the tournament season. As a player, I will say, only playing on those stages would certainly get bland pretty fast. Up air near the top is not going to kill Mewtwo, and he falls out of the up air a second time. That's actually pretty hard to do. R.O.B trying to charge up this gyro. On a stage as vertical as this, it's a lot less useful to have a sideways moving projectile. R.O.B can, of course, and Mewtwo doesn't get the tech, but he does live. Mewtwo teleporting up to R.O.B that had put him in just too much lag to be able to catch up. And R.O.B's still charging up that gyro. He's going to have a real hard time to get it to work. R.O.B starting to hit kill percent as well. Mewtwo landing neutral airs when one of his other moves could probably kill. R.O.B feels the taste of his own medicine though with that gyro. Gets killed off the top by Mewtwo's up air. Mewtwo now retreating towards the bottom of the stage. That's probably a good idea simply because R.O.B has so many options of killing you off the top. I'm a little surprised that up air didn't do it. To be fair, it just barely missed, and an up smash will. But Mewtwo got 20% off on R.O.B, and that's going to help him for this stock. Even though he just got comboed past R.O.B's percentage. Characters jumping past each other, trying to read some sort of backdash. That is actually a viable tactic you can use. Just be warned that if it doesn't work, you look a little foolish. In general, it's something you want to start reading once your opponent starts doing it. Especially because most opponents start to depend on certain techniques or play styles overly so. Maybe it's just the people I've been fighting, but it is a pattern I've seen. I've also seen people who very much depend on one specific character gimmick, and they struggle in any matchup that they really don't get to use that gimmick. I've seen Yoshis fly off stage so that they can double jump past the ledge. Seen Terry players who only know to cancel all of their aerials into one of his special moves, which certainly rakes on the damage, but usually those players also have worse game sense because they've been depending specifically on doing a lot of damage and their opponent not realizing what goes on too fast. The rare times those kind of players allow you to rematch, usually you win the rematch because you know what they're going to be going for. So they actually have to not rematch anyone, otherwise people learn about their tricks. And then they get a lower global smash power, which is the number that you get to see in your rankings when you play online. I wouldn't put too much stock in it, because it is, first of all, simply just a number. It's supposed to be calculated based on how good you are, but if you really want to, there are ways you can try to cheese that number higher than it otherwise should be. R.O.B with a falling down air into a grab. That's not normally something you see humans go for. Usually you want to commit for the full up air and then try to juggle the opponent. Mewtwo following after R.O.B with a back air. It's a move that comes out decently quick and has a large hitbox. R.O.B teching on the little diagonal thingy there. Gets sent off stage. Mewtwo goes for a spike, but it doesn't work. R.O.B should be able to recover if he uses his up special. He actually goes up through the platform instead of grabbing the ledge. A little risky, he could have eaten a forward smash for it. Mewtwo still has the Shadow Ball. He doesn't seem to have any plans of using it. And he gets hit by the gyro. I lost track of that, actually. Didn't realize it was still in play. Gyro bouncing off the diagonal platform again. That spike hitbox somehow sent R.O.B up, getting Mewtwo the victory. I did not expect that kill screen. And now we have Young Link against Pit. Looks like we're going to be on New Donk City. a decently balanced stage. It is one of the traveling stage types, so you will see the main platform travel between a couple of different platform configurations. Pit was actually able to shield the second hit of Young Link's forward smash before the second hit came out. That's very beneficial. First of all, it means he doesn't get basically any of the knockback. Young Link does have the forward smash where the first hit combos into the second hit, except usually at very high percentages, but those are also the percentages where any other move will probably kill the opponent just as well. So it doesn't become too much of an issue, at least in normal play. Pit with a great reflect, but Young Link's fire arrows do send you upwards, so it didn't send him off the side of the screen there. Playing near the side of the screen is, of course, always dangerous, since you need a lot less knockback in order to be KO'd. Young Link getting a combo off of Pit, he doesn't get him off the side of the screen, though. We almost had one of the quickest stocks in this tournament's history, and the stage transition is not fast enough to save Young Link from his own terrible decision. Young Link gets put off stage, and he gets put directly back in the center. Gets a boomerang on Pit, but then Young Link tries... Oh, I thought he was going to die there. He tried to follow it up with a grab, which usually doesn't work, especially because the boomerang makes the opponent airborne. Unlike traditional fighter games, you can grab an opponent who is airborne in Smash Brothers. It is, however, incredibly difficult, because if they're airborne, that usually means they're jumping over you. If they're jumping exactly into you, you can grab them, but that isn't particularly likely since there's so many other places they could be instead. Young Link still hanging on to his second stock. Any damage he can deal to Pit will make the third stock more guaranteed to go in his favor. And he gets up aired and dies. But he does have 50% now as an advantage over Pit. Unless Pit keeps comboing Young Link, which he seems to be doing. Does get hit by a fully charged point-blank fire arrow, though. On Young Link's fire arrow, there isn't as much benefit towards charging it up. It does get stronger and moves a little bit faster and farther, but normally the main benefit towards charging it up is that it lets you choose when to release the arrow. The arrow comes out really fast, and if your opponent is, for example, about to land, it's worth it to pull out the bow a little bit early and then try to time it to catch their landing instead. Pit trying to go for the match end there. He's a little bit behind. He should be able to recover with his recovery from there. But he is at a much higher percentage than Young Link, so he needs to be going for those big plays to escort Young Link into the blast zone. Already, Pit almost just touched it himself. Young Link successfully landing on the platform, only getting one hit from the forward air. It combos in the second hit, which killed, but that actually gave Young Link enough time to kill Pit with the up air instead. And now we have Lucas against Peach. We're going to be on Luigi's Mansion. There are no stage theme bonuses in Smash Brothers, with the exception that there are one or two specific interactions certain characters have. Most of them are merely cosmetic interactions at that. Technically, if you're playing as an Inkling on Moray Towers, your neutral special can help spread ink on the floor, which can slow you down your opponents and be slightly more helpful for you. But that is a very minor interaction. In fact, I'd say it's more minor than other characters having specific interactions with stage geometry or the like. Lucas grabbing ledge with the tether, didn't pull himself super quickly. He was able to avoid future paralyzers, and he gets Peach with his recovery. Does get hit by a turnip, but I'm pretty sure shooting yourself as an electrified rocket towards the opponent does more damage than a vegetable. That being said, Peach's turnips do more damage than you might think. It does about 12%, which means 10 of those puts you at the general kill percent threshold. grabs clashing there. You don't see that super often, especially not with a character who has a tether. Lucas recovering. Peach hits him out of it, but with a very weak hitbox of down air. Obviously, if Peach had a spiking move, that would be absolutely terrible to fight against, because her floating allows her to pick the exact situation in which she fights you off stage. Lucas hit Peach's counter with his forward smash. Peach got the counter off, but Lucas's forward smash has a special property where it can reflect projectiles. And when Peach pulls out Toad, he shoots spores, which count as a projectile. So they actually got reflected right back towards her. It's not as bad of an interaction as Sephiroth, though, who has a counter that also produces a projectile. But coincidentally, since Sephiroth's counter projectile is stronger, that means in that same situation, Sephiroth usually dies, whereas Peach usually lives, because she gets less damage reflected and multiplied. As a general rule in Smash Brothers, whenever a projectile is reflected, it does get a multiplier to its damage. There are a couple of exceptions. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. But there are exceptions, but they're more the exception to the rule than the standard. Lucas having the knowledge to hit Peach out of her own combo, and also comboing Peach all over the mansion, gets down tilt to grab. Normally that's risky on human players, especially against ones who prefer to jab out of any sort of stun they may or may not be in. Raw up smash is going to get Peach for 30%, which is a lot. Peach keeps tech rolling in, but that just puts her closer to Lucas, who smacks her away again. She needs to start changing it up. Maybe go for a neutral tech, or maybe even tech the other way. In those specific hits that would have put her at the ledge, which is easier to predict because you know you're exactly where your opponent's going to land. Peach gets put off stage. Lucas follows after her, uses his recovery, and he only clips Peach with it. That's dangerous because that part of PK Thunder has a lot of knockback to it. And a raw up smash is just going to kill Peach anyway. Good job, Lucas. You earned it. You did so much that match. And for our last normal match of this video, we're going to have Mr. Game & Watch against Luigi. Now, I say normal match because we still do have the free-for-all after this, which whoever wins this match, they're going to be in as well. We're going to have 6 fighters left and 5 spots in the tournament, so whoever gets eliminated first is the one who doesn't make it. So whoever does win this has a very good chance of making it into the tournament. I know it is a little bit of a break of pace. Normally we have 8 matches per episode. This one's going to have 9, because otherwise we would have episode 13 have 1 free-for-all match, and that's going to go for about 6 minutes on average, I'd guess. Which is, first of all, an incredibly short video. And secondly, it's not a video too many people would be inclined to watch all the way, because once the first character is eliminated, you know that all the others make it. So we're just going to stick it at the end of this one. It's changes like these that are made for the viewing experience of the average viewer. Luigi's struggling with these puff clouds. They're just perpetually damaging him, especially since Luigi doesn't have a particularly good airspeed. He can't exactly drift out of the way of it. It's a grab on Mr. Game & Watch. And Luigi does successfully recover, and then immediately gets hit by a hammer. Luigi trying to send Game & Watch off stage, gets him with an up smash. And he gets caught in the up air blender yet again. Mr. Game & Watch has an incredibly good jab, in case you didn't know. Luigi jumps past the ledge, often risky, especially for a character so bad off stage as Luigi. Luigi isn't the absolute worst as being off stage, but he is incredibly vulnerable when he is so. Uses the green missile to get back. If that was a misfire, it might have actually hit and or killed Mr. Game & Watch. Less likely because they were so far off to the left side of the screen. So the knockback probably wouldn't have been enough. But it is a strong move, and you never want to underestimate it. Well, Mr. Game & Watch hasn't exactly been showing too much gameplay variety. Luigi misses the ledge. He air dodges perfectly through it. That is very unfortunate for Luigi. Almost guaranteeing the win for Mr. Game & Watch. Since, spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure he's going to be throwing out up airs for the rest of this game. He'll throw in a couple other moves too, but it's going to be a lot of up airs. The platform despawning at the perfect moment for Luigi to get the advantage. Up smash is going to take Mr. Game & Watch's first stock, but he has one to spare. That's one more than Luigi has. Game & Watch just doing a great job continuing to juggle Luigi. Sorry, there's not too much to talk about here. This match has just been a very long time of Luigi being up in the air and not being able to do much about it. Trying to use the invincibility of his down special. Didn't work out for him there. There is a difference between invincibility and intangibility. The main difference being that if one of your limbs is invincible, then your opponent can hit it and they will suffer the normal hit stop and hit lag effects. Whereas if you are intangible, they will not. So as a general rule, invincibility is better because it stops your opponent in their tracks. Whereas intangibility, for example, a projectile will go through your intangible limb and then hit you anyways. And that's going to be that match. Gonna cut off that train of thought, but also I don't know if I could take any more of the Mr. Game & Watch up air sounds. And for the last match of the March Malcontent preseason, we have Corrin against Wario, against Mewtwo, against Young Link, against Lucas, against Mr. Game & Watch. There are 5 slots left and 6 characters. Whoever is the first eliminated will not make it into the tournament. The other 5 characters will. This is going to be a little bit of a small stage for all these characters to compete on. There's no stage hazards, which means we're not going to see the stage transform into the different transformations of it. So this is the platform layout we get for the rest of the match. A lot of characters going off to the bottom left, each one greedily trying to KO another one, only to realize harshly that someone else is going to try to KO them. A lot of action to follow, a lot of damage has been dealt out. Every single amiibo seems to be recklessly trying to damage another. Mewtwo is the first one to lose a stock. Everyone's playing the bottom right corner though, so that might change soon. It won't change, but other characters might lose their first stock soon. Young Link, surprisingly, has taken very little damage. Wario almost getting KO'd, able to use his good air acceleration, his great air acceleration and good airspeed to make it back to the stage. He does then get KO'd off the top. Back air kills almost 2 characters there. Mr. Game & Watch throwing bombs down at his enemies, which I suppose in real life is also an effective tactic, if a cruel one. Lucas preferring to stay off in the corner and fully charge a smash attack. Everyone successfully made it back to the stage after that. A little surprising with so many amiibo, you'd think someone would become a fatality. Wario getting the bikes smacked out of him. That's going to mean he's the first character to lose 2 stocks, putting him on his final stock. These amiibo are still just relentlessly hitting each other. Normally it's slightly more effective in a free-for-all like this to stay back just a little bit, because you don't want to be taking a lot of damage and then you land it as someone else's fully charged something and then die. we still have 2 characters who haven't lost a stock yet. I just said that, Game & Watch lost his stock. Young Link is the only character who has not lost one of his stocks. We now have 2 characters on their last stock, and Wario was the first one who died. He died at almost the same time as Mewtwo, but Wario had 1 less stock. So Wario will not be in April Anger. You saw it here first. I don't know where else you would see it unless someone copy and pastes this video, which I hope no one would ever want to do. We will, of course, still stick around to see who is the actual winner of this match. If for no other reason than I, for one, am curious. So Corrin is the 2nd character eliminated. Young Link still holding on all 3 of his stocks. As I say that, he fails the recovery. He now only has 2. Young Link, with a great recovery, he may not have snapped the ledge, but he got the only 2 characters near him in the crossfire. And Mewtwo, I thought, was going to be up airing Mr. Game & Watch, but Mewtwo actually got hit by him, leading to his death. 3 characters left. Lucas is the only one who only has 1 life left, so odds aren't looking great for him. This is when normally as the Lucas player, you would run away and make the other 2 characters fight each other, which they would be and Lucas died first, believe it or not. We now have a 2-stock game. Action slowed down incredibly quick, considering that there's no longer someone always over your shoulder to punish you for deciding to breathe funny. Also because Mr. Game & Watch starts chaining up the up airs again. Young Link up specials early, so he doesn't snap the ledge, but it did get Mr. Game & Watch away from him. Mr. Game & Watch getting hit by the boomerang on the return. That is something to watch out for whenever anybody throws any sort of returning projectile. You can guarantee that they are banking on the return to come when they need it the most. And a lot of times it will, especially if the other character isn't thinking about it. That time, Young Link actually jumped over his boomerang, so it ended up hitting Mr. Game & Watch. That flinch duration is actually valuable because whenever someone is flinching, it means they are not punching you in the face. Young Link not grabbing the ledge. He went for the tether recovery when he should have just gone for the up special. That is something to know about tethers. They can sometimes fail for one reason or another. They're actually pretty consistent in Smash Ultimate, but there are exceptions, and if you don't need to use them, you should normally be doing something better instead. Up B to up air, a great Young Link combo. Forward air is going to kill Mr. Game & Watch. Young Link won. And Wario is not going to be in April Anger. That's it for the preseason. I hope you had a great time. I know I certainly did. Next preseason won't be until next year, but don't worry, because next month in April, we're going to be having April Anger, the normal tournament season. Until then, bye.